You're watching TVC Breakfast. Worried by an imminent violent revolution as a result of unmitigated effects of unemployment-induced poverty in the country, the Senate has called on the federal government to set up an unemployment support fund as an intervention measure for the unemployed.
It also called on government to declare an emergency on unemployment in Nigeria, dedicates 20% of recovered loans to fund pro-quo ventures, and take other urgent measures to engage young citizens of the country. The Senate noted that vices of insecurity afflicting different zones of the country, especially in the northwest, were offshoots of unemployment and resultant poverty. Alive business and executive coach Abiola Champ Salami joins me now to talk more on this. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast. Now, unemployment is set to be about 20 million Nigerians are said to be unemployed. And even the Minister of Labour said at about 2023, it is going to rise to about 33.5%. How worrisome is that for you?
It is very worrisome because it keeps growing and it looks like there's no real intervention in place by the federal government and other agencies to curb unemployment.
When you said there is no real intervention, the government has tried to come up with several social intervention funds to see how it can check poverty and all of that. Are you saying that that isn't working or it's not achieving its aim?
It is not about the effort, it's about the results, right? If we focus on effort and what the conversations are alone, and we're not getting the right result, then it means that we need to rethink. It's a good thing that the Senate is urging the federal government to set up an intervention fund. It's a good thing. And even the source of that is a Senate to say that to bridge the gap between the haves and the have-not. And I thought that is a brilliant thing to say. But it's not just about the saying of that thing, it's about the implementation. There was something about having a factory in each local government. It means there will be about 770 something new factories, that will be set up. And now it shouldn't be limited to talking about it and drafting the policies and implementing it to be sure that it solves the problem that we're talking about.
But having a fund that would support the unemployed till they get jobs. What is the number of jobs available? And then saying the support fund now, will that really wouldn't that serve as a temporary measure?
I think that fund itself will make people more irresponsible. That is what I think. Rather than doling out funds to people, I think that it's about setting up different kind of work that people can do so that whatever it is they earn it because of something they are doing. Now, it doesn't have to be the big job, just something that they wake up and go add value somewhere. And there's a lot of things to be done. There are a lot of
but when you look at the infrastructure deficit that we have, where do we begin?
Now, to solve the problem, unemployment is not something that just came out of the fact that people don't have work to do. There's a structural adjustment that should be made. There are different kinds of policies that should be put in place. Our trade policy, for example, educational policy, for example, labor policy itself, for example. So to really, truly solve this problem, it wouldn't be a one approach. It would be like a three-pronged approach. One from the government, what government should do. The other one from private sector, what they can do some more. Then the individual as well. Because as much as we keep saying that unemployment is growing, some people are getting employed. There are jobs. Not that there are no jobs, but what you find most times is there are incompetent people all around to fill in these jobs. So the place of competence, build more competent, use educational policy to build more competence, then make more work available. It's a brilliant idea to say that let's have one factory in each local government. That's almost 1,000 new factories that will be springing up. Somebody said that for us to curb unemployment in Nigeria, we have to keep creating 4 million jobs every year over a 5-year period. So with that statistics, what should the government do? What should people do about that? And nobody should just pay lip service to it. Nobody should just use it as a campaign tool to win election. It's supposed to be something to solve a problem.
It's nice to have you join me right now.
Thank
nice to see you.
Good to see you too, by the way.
All right, now talk to me. The point there is Nigeria had a very promising future and prospect when it came to the issue of job creation and all of that with all the companies and so on. But in the last few years, or let's say a few decades, it's been coming down and down, and then the unemployment rate has been going up. We have it at about 23% right now. Now, how did we get here? How bad did it get?
Okay, see, when we hear things like this, especially the government trying to seek an intervention, I think about two things.
Right.
One, is this coming from a place of hypocrisy or a place of ignorance? Hypocrisy in that we know what the problem is, but we're shying away from it. Or we know what the solution is, but we're shying away from it. Ignorance in that we don't even know what the solution is, in the first place. And for me, everything rides on emotional intelligence. Okay. So what do I mean by that? What's emotional intelligence? It's the capacity to manage your emotions and manage the emotions of other people. So one of the critical skills that is important for people to develop is that emotional intelligence. And the reason for unemployment it's not just because there are no jobs. There are actually jobs, but we don't have competent people to take on these jobs. And the place of competence
is that the challenge?
Is skill development. That is one. The other one, which the government, I think, is hypocritical about, because I don't think it's about ignorance, is the government has no business in creating jobs.
So are you saying programs or schemes like the Sure P in the previous administration, Empower in the current administration are not supposed to be or misplaced?
So the business of the government is to create an enabling environment for businesses to thrive. That's the business of the government. It is hypocritical to start creating some programs and saying you're employing people under the scheme or you're training people under the scheme. What you want to do is to create that environment where businesses can thrive. The economies that we talk about today, it is not the government that created the jobs that make the economies to thrive. It is the small and medium scale businesses within those communities, within those countries rather, that employ people. There are over 30,000 registered businesses, for example, in Nigeria. Imagine each of them employing about 1,000 people. What will we be talking about? We'll be talking about almost 30 million people, additional 30 million people employed.
How the Senate is now calling for an unemployment trust fund. How much of a game changer is that going to be?
So the fund in itself is not the solution.
Okay.
The solution should be creating an environment where the businesses will already have can thrive so that they can employ more people, where people can build competences. And remember, I mentioned something about emotional intelligence, which is key, which is the place of developing the right competences to fill the job roles that we have, and also creating an enabling environment for these businesses to create more job roles for people, for young people to be employed. So again, it is not about being hypocritical about the problem or showing ignorance. It's about committing to implementation.
That means government has to be deliberate about it
Yes.
and go headlong. Abiola Champ, Salami, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Right.